We have all been to meetings with beautiful presentations, crisp storytelling, and when the data is shared on screen, it's so pleasing to the eye, so easy to understand, explains so much in just one dashboard, where you can see all the breakdowns as you wish, interact with the data, and change the result just by a few clicks. So intuitive, so simple. And we all have wondered, I wish I knew how to do that. Would make my life so much easier. Well friends, today we are going to learn just that. A simple way to tell your story through data. The art of presenting your information where your story seamlessly integrates with the data and moves it forward. We're going to learn the 4 levels of Excel that will help you stand out in any presentation you give. Hello friends, my name is Raja Roy, and if this information interests you, consider subscribing and you will not miss similar content in the future. As always, all sections of the video are in the timeline and description below for your quick reference. So before we go digging in Excel, what is it for? How can it help me? Why invest my time in learning Excel? There are 5 tangible benefits that you will see right away once you master these 4 levels. Let's list them out. Your storytelling while presenting will become very crisp. The sharpness will be noticeable by others. It's visual the way we will present this. It's easier to gain trust when your audience is seeing what the difference is right on screen. The evidence part of your presentation will speak for itself with this knowledge. It will empower your users and they can engage with the information you present. Isn't that lovely? What's better than telling a story? For them to interact with it. And the automation aspect of this will save everyone so much time. So let's dive in. What are these 4 levels and how can you level up your Excel skills? Level 1, data massaging. These are basic essential things that you need to learn in Excel that will make you look professional. Formatting data, table formatting, aligning elements, using header colors, knowing multi-column sorting and filtering. Conditional formatting. This adds the first visual element to your dataset. One of the many ways of using this is as a signal. You could use it for status reporting, for impact analysis. Your high, medium, lows all could be in different colors. Then we will learn how to do freezing panes, drag and fills, and removing duplicates. And finally, some basic functions. Things that will let you operate faster, like sum, average, count, max. This might sound like a daunting task. I just rambled like 30 things that you need to learn in level 1. Pause the video and go through each one of these items. You can learn all of these items in just 3 days and just practice them after that to remember it. So let me show you some of these basic things that we call data massaging that will make you look professional. So we will start with these examples that you see here. We'll start with formatting data, aligning elements, using header colors, multi-column sorting, filtering, conditional formatting, freezing panes, drag and fill, removing duplicates, and some of these basic functions I talked about, sum, average, count, max. So we'll go through one by one and show you when a data set comes in, what can you do with that data to make it look professional. So say, this is a basic data set that I just pulled from somewhere to show you, all the different things that has come in. So I have these columns, name of people, what country they're from, they have donated, and what are the amounts they have donated to this cause. Say you're raising some funds, and here are the addresses, phone numbers, emails. Again, these are all dummy data, but to give you an example, and the number of interactions maybe you have had with these people either through phone or email, and you wanted to capture that. So the first thing you want to do is make this data presentable. As you can see, not all the addresses are visible, the emails are cut off, some of these names are cut off as well. So here's a very simple trick. You just select the columns like that and then go in between these 2 columns and double click. Excel has this feature, when you double click, it automatically makes it to the width of the maximum item in that row. So right away you can see name, country, donation amount, address, phone, email, number of interactions, everything got sorted. So now you can see all of them. Now if you want a little more space, you can just go above and just drag these over. These are giving you a little more spacing for each one of these items. So say the phone number, I want to get a little more space, email looks good, interactions look good. Another formatting is these are all headers. I want them in a different color. And so I'm just going to select this entire header row, go on top, and you can see this is the text color and this is the background color. There, when you hover, it can show you what it does. So font color, fill color. So I'm going to say I want actually a gray background for this. So that, and I also want to bold the text. So I'm just going to go ahead, bold the text. And since it's gray on black, it's not going to look very good. I'm going to turn the text color to white. So clearly now you can see these are standing out. Again, number of interactions is cutting off. So I'm just going to move that over. Another thing that we can do is we can just select this entire data set. There you go. And then over here, come over here, and you can see there is an option over here called borders. I can go ahead and select all borders, and right away you can see it puts a border across every data set, and that's it, makes it look so much cleaner. Now some of these items, as I'm going through this in aligning elements, like the interactions would really look nice if the numbers were in the middle. So all you need to do is just select the column, center, done. Now if you don't want the header to be centered, you can just select the header and go left for this example. Similarly, same thing, donation amount, select, center, select header, left. And right there, those two looks great. I think phone number can use some of the same formatting as well. So I'll do that and move phone back onto the left. So I think those are the basic formatting and aligning I wanted to do. I want to keep the name, country to the left, address is fine, email is fine. So we just covered header colors as well. And if you wanted to change the color, you can just come here, select that, and boom, just select another color and you're good to go. Since you're using white as the text, I'll select a darker color. That will kind of give you that. There you go. Now, if this area is too thin of a header and you want to make it a little wider, just pull this down. So by pulling these down, you can adjust each of these header rows. All right, so we did that. So now I want to make sure I can do these next steps, multi-column sorting and filtering. So how do I do that? So first, to put in a filter, I'm just going to go ahead and select this column over here. This row over here. And we're going to go to data tab, and there is a column called filter. There's a lot of things here going on, but just focus on the key things that we are talking about. This is, again, as we are saying, this will make you look professional. So you don't need to know everything that's going on in this ribbon in Excel. But right here, filter. You just hit that filter button and boom, the entire row is now filtered. Now, if you didn't want these, so I'm just going to Control Z out. Control Z means I'm undoing the thing. Just come here, select this, and I say filter. And you can see only that area got a header filter. Now, this is where you can see that these has a drop down. That means I can filter with it. What does filter allow us to do? Well, let's take an example. So we come here and we want to see anybody who has the name Jones. Right? There's only one Jones, and you can see it's already filtering over there. I can cancel, hit escape, and I'm back. Or say you wanted to see anybody with whom you had at least 5 interactions or 5 interactions. So here it's pulling in 5 and 15, remove 15, and these are the ones you had 5 interactions. So very quick way to get to a subset of data is what filter allows you to do. So again, I'm Control Zing out. And that's what filtering is mainly for, is to filter a subset of your main data set. All right, so with the filtering done, let's talk about multi-column sorting. How does multi-column sorting work? And why do you want to use it? So say in this case, I have a country column, which would be nice if I could sort by the country and the name. So maybe I wanted to show, I want to first sort by the country and then the name, first name. So how do I do that? Okay, so you select the data set again, column A through G, go into sort, click sort. It's asking you, okay, what do you want to sort by? Okay, I would say, you know what, my first sort should be country, A to Z. But then I would add one more. And this is where instead of just sorting by one, now you're sorting by multi-column. So it asks you, okay, you're sorting by country, then by what? So here is what you select, name, and you still want to do A to Z. Here, if this was something else where, a chronological order would be better, you could go Z to A, a descending order. And I will go ahead and click OK. and boom. You can see now the entire data set is not only sorted by country, but within the country, right, say here Belgium, you can see the names are now sorted as well. That is what multi-column sorting is. It will come in very handy when you have massive data sets and you're trying to say sort by organization, and there is another filter that you want to sort by. Priority could be one example. And that's where multi-column sorting comes in. It's just not one or two or three. You can actually completely layer in 3, 4, 5 layers. Let's keep going. Conditional formatting. All right. So conditional formatting. So what I wanted to find out is anyone with whom we have had more than 10 interactions, I want to color them in yellow, because those are important. Those people we have had a lot of interactions with. So how do I do that? Okay. So let's go here. We know that we want to use a conditional formatting on number of interactions. So we're going to go ahead and go to home page again, home. So this brings in the main ribbon that's on the home, what you can access. Here you will see an option called conditional formatting. Click conditional formatting and it can say right here, highlight cell rules. All right, so we want to check anybody with whom we had more than 10 interactions. So highlight cell rules greater than, and you can see right here, format cells that contain cell values greater than, I would say 9, because 10 onwards we want to have a certain color. So it says, okay, for anything that's greater than 9, what do you want to do? So we're going to say we're going to do a yellow fill with dark yellow text. Okay, so click OK and boom. You can see every interaction where we have had more than 9, which is 10 onwards, they're all colored in a particular color. Now that's the power of conditional formatting. Now you can add on, you can tack on more rules to this, and you can say ranges from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. I wouldn't have the time to show you all of that, but that's what conditional formatting does. Now freezing panes. What does freezing pane do? It's very useful when you're looking at a massive data set. Again, this is an example data set. We only have 100 rows, but say you're looking at 700, 1000, 5000 rows, and you're scrolling down and you're trying to read some information and you forgot, okay, 60 to 80, wait, what was this? Oh, donation amount. So how do you keep that top row always here so that when you're scrolling, you always know what context you're in? So the way to do that is multiple ways. So one way is you can just select this top row, go to view, and in view you will have this freeze top row. That alone should take care of freezing the first row, usually, which is the header. So now you can go down and you can see the top row is fixed. You always have context of the data set in what header context you're looking at. All right, next we're going to look at drag and fill. So to look at drag and fill, I'm just going to go ahead and insert a row here. And let's say we're going to say there is a column called status. And the status is completed for this data set, right? There is a value that you know which has to actually apply to all of them. So you can just select that value, go to the bottom right corner, and you just drag. And as you drag and you leave the mouse, the entire data set is filled. You can do it multiple ways. Of course, you can copy and paste them or select the entire area and paste. But you can also do this. This is what is called drag and fill. So it fills in all the information, the same information that you're dragging. Now there are multiple uses of this. This is one example where you're just pasting in a particular value. But say you're creating an ID for this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create another cell, insert column here. And I'm going to say this column is going to be my ID column. First row is 1, second row is 2. You can now select 1 and 2 and drag. And look, it started to create an ID, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the power of drag and fill. It is a smart fill. It knows what context in which you're asking it to fill. So removing duplicates is a very unique feature. So say in this case, we have 100 rows. If we wanted to know how many of the users here are unique to one country, so we'll only keep one record from one country. So what I can do then is I can say, okay, let's select the entire data set. Okay, I'm going to go back to data, and there's a column over here called remove duplicates. So it's asking me, okay, so what are you trying to remove? So we're going to say, you know what? Anywhere there is a country duplicate, remove everybody, just keep one. All I want to see is how many countries we have. Okay? And boom. It took care of it. It's saying now 65 duplicates were found, so which means 35 of these countries were unique. So that's a really quick way to get rid of any duplicates you might have. Sometimes your data might have duplicates. This was not a great example because obviously you don't want to remove actual records. So I'm going to undo this and bring everything back. But that's how you can use remove duplicates. All right, and then finally, let's talk about these basic functions. And trust me, just these features, if you just practice them, you will receive, be over and be professional, and data massaging part will be done. Your first level is completed. All right, so let's look at these 4 basic functions. Sum, average, count, max. Okay, so sum is right here, donation amounts. If you wanted to find out, okay, how much total donation amount have we collected? So we go all the way at the bottom, click there, and you will see if you go to home page, there is the home ribbon, sorry. You will see there is a thing called auto sum. So I'll click auto sum, and again, Excel is smart enough to know that, okay, you're trying to sum this column, right? And it's giving you the formula sum C2 to C1, where C2 is the cell number to C101 is the last cell number. And all you hit is enter, and boom, it tells you have collected $5,094.01. So that's what sum can do. Now the other 3, average, count, and max. So what is the average amount that you have collected? Now you can do the same thing. Instead of sum, in this case, you are just going to use average. So now if you do equal and you start typing in AVG, you can see right there, average. Okay. So average, and it's asking you, what's the range? If you remember, you can either put in the numbers. So which was, in this case, our first number is C2. So we'll put in C2. And then it's asking you, okay, C2 to what? C2. And then we'll say, you know what? It's not just C2. We want the entire set. We want C2. We want C2 through C101. So now if you look at this, it's highlighting the entire row, entire column. And it's telling you that it's $50.94 is the average. Another way to do average would be you just come here, click there, select on this function key. This is basically all the formulas that Excel has, it will tell you. Now you can see right here, it's telling you, some of the most recently used and most common ones as well are sum, average, max is here, count is here. Those are the 4 we just talked about. So you can just say, okay, show me average, right? So insert function, and okay, I'm sure you want to do it for this column because that's where you are. I say, yep, enter, and 50. So similarly, if you wanted to do count, is the same thing. You just say, come here, you say count, insert function, enter, 100. So there is 100 rows of information here. And what is the maximum amount somebody has contributed as a donation? So in that case, again, the same thing, just take that out, come in here, max, insert function. Yes, in this entire data set, 9874. Imagine trying to get that number going through the data set and finding it. But using this small function, you can do that just by one click. No, seriously, in 3 days, you can learn all of this and master all of this before moving on to level 2. So what is level 2? Level 2 is advanced formulas, pivot tables, and charts. What are advanced formulas? These are things for which you have to write some logic. Let's take 2 examples. We are first going to look at the if loop, and secondly, we are going to execute the VLOOKUP function. This is going to come in handy for you forever. Let's find out how to do it. Now we're going to see how you can write some of these, what we call advanced formulas. If loops and VLOOKUPs. Both will come in super handy for you. So let's just dive in. All right, let's look at if loop. So we're going to take this same data and we're going to introduce something here. We're going to say that are the number of interactions more than 10? Question mark. So that's the question we are trying to answer. So how do we know that? We have all these different numbers, right? So how do we say that, okay, is it more or not? And this is where you can just write a simple if loop and it will come in handy. So how do you go about this? So go into the cell and you're trying to see if 3 is more than 10, right? So obviously the answer is no, but you are not going to be able to do this for 8,000 rows of data one by one. That's why we're writing some code here. So we come here, go ahead, fx, again, it's asking for the formula. Here it is, one of the most commonly used, if. All right, so we're going to say, okay, let's insert this function. And it's telling you, okay, so these are the things you need to satisfy this function. So the first thing you need to know is, okay, what is the test here? What are we trying to say? We are trying to say is if this data is greater than 10. That's what we are asking, right? If the one data that you're seeing on the left is more than 10. Okay, so if value is true, then say yes. If value is false, then say no. Okay, and that's it, done. So the logic runs and it comes back and says no. So I'm going to again do the same thing, a quick formatting so that I can put it in the middle, bold the header, use the same background color, text color, and we're in business. So now what we have learned previously, a drag and fill not only works for text, but it also works for formulas. So I'm just going to drag this all the way to my 100th row and boom, you have all your answers. Look at all the yeses. They're all the fields which are more than 10, and that's the logic you wrote. It literally took us 1 second, and now we can filter. We can again come here, data, put in a filter on this and say, you know what, how many of these are actually more than 10? There it is. Right there, you can see at the bottom, it says 53 out of 10. That was only possible and this fast because you couldn't write a if loop. A if loop solves this problem. So similarly, let's look at what a VLOOKUP can do for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 of these names and say you have a massive data set of 10,000 records and you're trying to find out 3 names or 200 names for whom we need to find out what their countries are. So we're going to come here, put in the 3 names that we copied from the other tab. So for these 3 names, we want to find out what country do they reside in. I know I'm looking for Chelsea and I want to find the country. So let's go ahead and put the formula in. We'll come here and we want to do a VLOOKUP. So you don't see it as one of the most common ones. So this is again, it's a little more trickier than the standard ones. That's why it doesn't appear, but it's super handy. And that's why you need to learn it. Okay, so I'm going to click VLOOKUP, insert function, and here you can see it takes 4 parameters. So it's asking me, okay, what do you want to look up? I want to look up Chelsea Norman. That's the name I want to find. So then it says, okay, where do you want to find it? Well, I want to find it in my dataset right here. So let's select the dataset and let Excel know this is the dataset I'm looking for. You just select the entire dataset. That's it. I know it's only the first 2 columns, but we're selecting the entire dataset because we may be wanting to find out another column later. So, okay, so then it's asking you, okay, which column index number are you looking for? Remember what index number means is when you're looking at the data, which column are you trying to return? In this case, we're actually trying to return number 2. So we can come back to VLOOKUP and say, you know, we are just looking to return number 2. And range lookup, it's false. So make sure that the range is absolutely, you know, exact match. And that's what it says. What is a range lookup? Is a logical value to find the closest match in the first column, sorted in ascending order, true, or omitted, find on exact match, false. So I'll say false, enter, and Chelsea North comes in as Australia. So let's look at it. Chelsea Norman, Australia. Okay, that's good. Let's also use another name. Maybe we use, because these are all Australia, I'm going to switch it over. I'll do Harding Graham. So I'll take Harding, come back here. The second name we're going to do Harding. Now we already have the formula written. Nothing changes. The data set is the same. It is still A2. It's A3. So in this case, I'll copy this and just paste it here, and it says Belgium. How easy was that? And boom, Belgium. Let's try one more. Let's try over here, Lana. Copy Lana, bring Lana over, the third name, and then the same thing, copy it over, Peru. That's the power of VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP can quickly pull from massive data sets the exact match that you need for that particular data. So it could be an inventory, it could be some massive customer profile information that you're looking at, but you can quickly drag that information out. So I hope this was helpful. VLOOKUPs is you just practice different ways of looking things up. VLOOKUP is one of the main things that you will use for a long time. And then comes pivot tables. Pivot tables allow you to take massive sets of data and summarize it in a succinct way. Let's take an example. Let's look into pivot tables. Now pivot tables, as I said, now you're really in the heat of level 2. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to present your data now, massive sets of data, in a very crisp fashion. So what are the pivot tables that we can run on this? So I would love to know how many of our users are from particular countries. So let's look at a pivot table for that. So I'm going to go to pivot table, and here I'm going to go to insert, and here you have all these options for pivot tables over here. So we're going to say I'm going to go ahead and put in a pivot table. So the first thing it will ask you is, okay, so where is the data going to come from for this pivot table? And you do the same thing. You just say it's going to be in these 7 columns. Okay. So now it's saying, okay, we are ready to create a pivot table. Now here are the data sets that you have. So what I want to see on the left hand column is the number of countries. So you can see here are your rows and here are your columns. I'm just going to drag country into row, and boom, all the country labels are here. Now what you want to do is you want to know, okay, for each of these people that we have in our record for who have donated, we know they are from these countries, but how many in each country? So now you can drag the name into values. And look, it's doing a count. And right here, boom, it tells you from each country how many names you have who have contributed to your donation fund. Now you can come here and take that blank out that you saw there. And there it is. Now let's do another pivot. Same thing, we'll come here, insert pivot table, same, asking for the range. Okay, we're going to give you this range. It's these 7 columns. Okay. All right. So this range we want to do is how many interactions did we have that are more than 10? So what we can do is, again, number of interactions in row, and name would be in the value column. And here you can clearly see right away 16 people we had 19 interactions with, 17 interactions with 6 people. And this is another beauty of pivot tables, is here you can actually click on this 6. You can double click and it will pull in all of those 6 records where you had 17 conversations. How cool is that? So you can actually directly, I'm going to delete this tab now, but you can directly access this information right from this pivot table. So if you wanted to see which are the 2 contacts from Netherlands who have contributed to your donation, double click on 2, here they are. That is the beauty of pivot tables. It not only pulls data in an extremely crisp fashion and shows a summarization of it, but now you can actually directly interact. This is the first interaction pieces with the data that you're doing, and now you're going right into context and seeing that information. And finally, in level 2 comes charting. Charting allows you to take all the summarization that you did with the data in pivot tables and visualize it. I want to take this information and then turn it into charts. I wanted to say, what does a chart look like? Because here you have to go through and find out which country has the most number of users. Yes, you can still do it, but it's still a long set. So what we can do is we can take this data, this pivot table data, and go into insert. So in this case, I wanted to do a bar chart. So I would say just show me a bar chart of all the countries from where we have our users. And look, right here you can see this is the country. It's so visual, right? Again, you can still see here, but you have to go digging and see, okay, there is a 6. But that's what chart does. It takes that already summarized data and now it's making it even more visual, so it stands out. So the same thing you can do now is with this other table. I'll just take that data and go into insert, and I'll say, you know what, do the same thing for this. Give me a bar table. Give me a bar chart that will show the interactions, and boom, there are your interactions. Right there you can see the most interactions that you have had was 19, but it also is with the most number of people, 16. That is almost like an insight that you can now get out of this data. So this is where charts come in, right? The data doesn't speak, or you cannot visualize it when you see it in a pivot table. The chart allows you to do that, and that's the difference. That's the beauty of creating it through a chart. Once your data from pivot tables is in the chart format, that's how it looks. Isn't that easier to digest? Your users are going to feel the same way. Once you have mastered advanced formulas, pivot tables, and charting, there is no stopping you now. Let's roll right into level 3. Remember the beautiful story we saw at the start of this video? This is where you bring this to life. Let's see how our example looks once we put this in a dashboard format. Alright, now we're going to see how can we put all this pivot table information and the chart information that we created and put them in a dashboard. And this is just going to give you some ideas of how you can use dashboards and how you can present your data. So here, as you were saying, we started here, right? You could be presenting this data in this format, and yes, it looks professional, but it's very hard to digest, right? It's hard to understand or get any insight from this data. So this is where we created the pivot tables. Now the pivot tables, I added a few more layers here, as you're seeing now, is for the countries, we also now added who are the people? Who are the people in these countries who have donated? And then I also added over here the interactions, how many that we had. And here is what we added from by country, the donation amounts that we have received. So these are great pieces of information that people will be interested in, right? So when you're looking at the donation amount, you can clearly see Belgium, and here Ukraine is really sticking out. So if you have to run some campaigns in other countries where you're not doing any well, or you want to reach out to these countries more where you are getting more traction, again, the data is showing you that you can do that. All right, so what we're going to do is now, this is great. You have the pivot tables, you can show them in a chart format, and you can just present these charts now. But let's take this one level further. Let's create dashboards and let's give it to the users to interact with it. So how do we do that? All right, so I'm going to go to dashboards, and I have pulled in those 3 charts that we had created. Now this is where you can do some cool things. So we're going to start with right here. We're going to say well, let's start here. We got the donation by country. For the donation by country, we go into insert, and in here you can insert something called a slicer. So what does slicers allow you to do? So all right, I want to see all the people who have been contributing from certain countries. I'll check that and say okay. So it gives me this kind of tool where you can see the list of countries. Now you can modify this. Once I select this, this is for this because you selected this chart when this slicer was selected. So this slicer comes up. You can say I want 3 columns and just make it a little bigger, and you can see all the countries will fit in here. There you go. So all the countries are here. So we'll keep that up. We'll come into the interactions, select interactions, and we'll do the same thing. We'll go to insert. We'll say give me another slicer, but this time for the interactions. Now here in the interaction one, I just want to see the number of interactions as one of the slicers. Okay, so now you can see the interaction one came up, and I want to do the same thing. I'll make it 2 columns for this, and boom, there it is. So my interaction, almost like my pivot point is here. And then for the third one over here, which is the amount that we see, I want to see again by country. So for pivot 3, I want to do the same thing. I want to come here, insert, and I want to say, all right, show me by, slice it again, but do it by country. Okay, and again I got another slicer by country. I'll do the same thing, 3 columns. Data set is opened, and this is for this slide. All right, so once you have these, you can actually present these to the user in a way that is very unique. So look at this. I'm going to put these 3 next to each other. So it almost looks like 3 side-by-side tables, right? Which the users can interact with. And these will be the slicers for each one of them that they can work with. And here are the 3 slicers. Now you can label them, create borders around them, color them behind, and make it much more prettier, and that's what it will look like dashboard. But I'm just showing you functionality and giving you ideas what you can do with it. So here, look at this. I'm going to say, show me Brazil and show me France. So boom, for Brazil and France, the users can now see what was the amount spent. Okay. And also for here, can you also show me Brazil and France in terms of who are the donors? Oh, they're there. These are the people who donated from these countries, and these were the amounts. Do you see this now? Like, the users can literally interact with all of them. I can go back and select all for this table, or clear the filter, and now all is selected. And I can say, you know what, I want to do for another one, maybe Canada, 200, okay, Netherlands 60, South Africa 80, United Kingdom 310. Okay, that's a significant amount. I want to see who are the people who contributed from UK. Let's look at that. Let's clear all of them and just UK, and there it is. Those are the 5 people who contributed from UK. You can dice and do all of this information, all the dicing through here, and you can just give it to the users. That's the power of dashboards. So you can start to see some subsets of the data in a visual format, and that's what dashboards are powerful for. So imagine your status reporting you can give to the users on all the things that you have done, the impact analysis you have done, or all those enhancement lists that you have created and you wanted to categorize in a certain way. Your defects, all of it can be provided in dashboards and will empower the user and make you look so much professional. Look at this, what you're showing to the users versus what you were showing here initially. What a difference, right? What night and day difference. And that's what dashboards allows you to do. That's the power of dashboards. Now that you have dashboard creation in your back pocket, it's time to look at efficiency gains. In comes macros. This is level 4 of Excel. This is where you can show your flair to the ordinary people who use Excel. With one click of a button, you can move mountains. Welcome to the world of automation using macros in Excel. Think of all the repetitive action that you perform in Excel. All the changes to that initial data set once it comes in and you have to make them. All of that you can achieve with just one click of a button. Let's use our example and see what macros we can write for it. Alright, now we have reached level 4. This is where you can automate your information and all the repetitive tasks that you have to do on a daily basis on some data set. You can create a macro and the computer will do it for you. You don't have to do and waste all that time. So let's look at how we can do this. So here you're looking at a data set. So this is a data set that you get on every Thursday, and you need to clean this data up, make it presentable and make it probably goes in some decks that goes in front of senior management. So what you can do here is, and this is what I'm going to show you, but you can just create this and save this one time, and you can reuse this every time this data set comes in. So let's look what macros can do. This is what you would see when you come into Excel. You're not going to have developers. You have to go into Excel, hit Preferences, go to Ribbon, and here you will see there is a developer box in the Customize ribbon. So add this and hit Save. Right after this, close this, and boom, here comes developer. So to run macros or record macros, you will need the developer tab. That's where macros reside. So here is a raw data set, and I want to change it, and I want to make sure that every time this happens, I have set the data in a particular formatted way. So to do this example, I'm going to copy this information over here, the unformatted data, and I'm going to create a new tab, say new data set formatting. Okay, so put this in. Now I want to format this data, but I want the macro to record it so that the next time I get this next week, it can do it for me. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead into developer, and I'm going to say record a macro, and it's going to ask, okay, what macro do you want to create? All right, I'm going to say new underscore data underscore formatting. Now remember, when you are putting in macro names, it has to have underscore or something. It cannot have spaces, so it won't let you save your macro. So I'm going to say that's the macro I'm saving, and hit OK, and boom, you can see right here it says stop recording, macro is on. So whatever you would do to this data set, just go ahead and start working on it. I'm going to select this data, all of this. I'm going to make the rows very clean. I also want to actually go ahead and make this data a little bigger, 12. Yeah, that's legible. A little more room for each of this data set. I want a background color for this. Text color should be white. Make this even bigger. I want to put donation in the middle. The number of interactions should be centered. There's too much space here, so I'll take some of this off. Donation amount, same thing. Phone numbers too. Number of interactions is, I think, fine. So I think here this is good, but I want to also put a border on this. So I'll select the data, and I'll go ahead here and say all borders. Now at this point, this is how I want the data to look once I'm all done. Right, I'm going to give a little more space to the email. Okay, perfect. This is how I want it. So at this point, I will go ahead into developer and say stop recording. So now that macro that I have created is ready. This is a very, very simple example, but say if you're doing so much data massaging that it takes you 15, 20, 30 minutes a day when you're doing this. I'm going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to keep this, right? Not delete, but I'm going to keep it. But to show you, we're going to start again from raw data. Again, this data came in next week, and we have to massage this data again. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to copy this data, new tab, and I'm going to say format data again. But this time, we are actually not going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and say macro. I'm going to run formatting data on this, run, and boom, look at that. The data set just transformed itself. So let's recap what journey we took to get at this fourth level of mastering Excel. At the very beginning, we started with data massaging, things that will make us look professional. Then we learned advanced formulas, pivot tables, and charting. Now we are able to summarize our data very well, present our thoughts concisely, and articulate well. We have reached level 2. In level 3, not only can we present our data in a crisp fashion, we can tell a story around it by creating dashboards. And even better, we can hand that dashboard over to our users who can now interact with it. And in level 4, we learned how to be efficient with this whole process, aka macros. taking away all the repetitive tasks that we do on a daily basis and turning it into just one click of a button. If this was helpful, friends, check out my 6 tips on Outlook. It has massive productivity gain ideas that you will surely like. Thank you, and I'll see you there.